Okay, this podcast is for CNT140. We're looking at our cable certification lab. Just to kind of refresh your memory, if you think back this semester, we pulled the horizontal cabling in the lab. We then terminated the outlet jack on one end of the cable run. We came back the following week, we terminated the patch panel on the other end of the run, so we had the horizontal cabling installed. We then made patch cables, so we have all the pieces of our system. What we're going to do now with our certification meter, this guy here, is certify our cable run that it's actually performing at the performance level that we have desired, our gigabit to the desktop desire. So we're going to use our cable certification meter to do that. Now, since this guy can be just a little overwhelming on its settings, the purpose of this podcast is to kind of orient you to how to use this guy, how to perform the test, and then when we're done on the next podcast, how to download that data onto your PC so you have it, your cable scan. Alright, so the first part of the lab, I give you directions on how to set this meter up, and for both models that we have, the process is very similar, but let me just kind of quickly show you the process. As you first get your meter, there's a set of icons top and bottom. Each one allows you to get on its specific menu of settings, if you will. We'll navigate through. We have the cable ID, we have stored tests up here, we have the actual field calibration, which we'll do that second here. This is the preferences on the meter, what language, that sort of thing. The actual toner if I'm trying to find a cable run. The information about the instrument itself. How to perform a specific test like a crosstalk test, I can select this option. If I'm using the fiber modules, the test standards, which we're going to use right off the bat, and then some general help on the meter. So I'm going to go to the test standards. This is where I put in the settings on what particular test I want to run. I'll hit the enter key. I know it's a little tough on your camera here, but we see down along the left TIA, ISO, IEEE, coax, etc. We're going to pick the TIA option because we have been doing our standards all semester have been ANSI TIA. We're going to select that, and it's going to give us a choice of whether we want to do a permanent link or channel test. We are doing permanent link in our lab, so I'll select the permanent link option. Once I do, it says, okay, are you doing 5E? Are you doing category 6? What are you doing? So I will find on the list the cabling we installed, 5E permanent, hit the enter key. It's going to ask for just a couple more settings. In this case, I can literally just kind of default through and say enter, enter. And I now have my meter set up to do a category 5E UTP permanent link test. I should be seeing that right up here at the top of my meter. So my meter is now set to do the type of test I want to do. The second thing I need to do is I'm going to go to the top row and select the field calibration icon. Now I need to calibrate the meter so it knows everything there is to know about our the meter test cables. Now, I have these laying, I have one side laying on each side of my meter. Here's the main meter part. This is the remote end. So I have a cable laying on each side here, and what I'm going to do is I will select the field calibration option right there, top row. When I do, it's going to show me a picture on here that shows me the meter and the remote, and it says, hey, you have two patch cables, one on each side. Take the one on the right hand, connect it between the meters, and do a test. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try my best to do this without bumping the webcam or anything. When I did this earlier, I bumped the webcam and everything kind of came to a screeching halt here. So we'll try our best without bumping anything. So I'm going to take this right hand patch cable, if you will, plug it into my meter. When I'm done, I will hit the, there we go. As it says on here, I will hit the start button right here. I will hit start, and what it's going to do is scan this right-hand patch cable, the one on the right side of my table, and learn everything it needs to know about it. When it's done, I should get some sort of indicator that it's done, and it says, okay, take your other patch cable. This is where I bumped the web camera before. I'll take the other patch cable, the one on the other side, the one I have over here, and now plug it into my meter. Trying my best not to bump the camera. I'm going to plug it into my meter, plug it into my, or I should say into my remote, then into my meter. There we go. Now I'll hit the test button again. Now it's going to learn everything it needs to know about this cable. And the last part, it is just a little confusing, but I'll now take it says, okay, take the cable out, and I'm going to connect the left cable to the remote, and I will connect the right cable to the, left cable to the meter, the right cable to the remote. There we go, just like that. And now I have my cable that was on the left just on this meter, the cable that was on the right just on the remote, and it tells me to press the start over here, and on this side I'm going to press the auto test button. It told me to press auto test. When it's done, I should get a calibration complete with a little green check mark, and over here I should get a calibration successful. Now the meter has been set to do our permanent link test. It is now calibrated, and the key here is don't make any other setting changes on the meter and leave these patch cables plugged in, and you should be fine. If you make any other setting changes on the meter or move your patch cables around, the meter is going to recognize that and say, recalibrate please. And that can be a little frustrating when you're trying to scan your cable runs. Alright, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my meter and my remote. I'll take my meter over to maybe like my outlet jack at my desk. I will plug my meter into the outlet jack. I will then take the remote over to the patch panel and plug it into the patch panel. And I will use the auto test button, and I will hit the auto test, and it's going to run the battery tests necessary to certify the cable run. And when I'm done, up here on the screen it'll say hopefully successful pass, and it'll give me the option to rename my test result, and I will do that. I will use the button. One of these will light up to say rename. I'll hit the rename and go through and change it to something like Brown 13 or Brown 14, my name and the cable run that I did, and I'll save it. So I'm actually going to go do this on one of the cable runs. When I come back, I'll start a new podcast where I'm going to show you on the desktop how to pull the data off the meter onto your PC. So I will be back in the next podcast to show you how to get my meter result or my cable certification result off my meter.